welcome back to our next episode of Permission to Do You in Your Marketing. I am very excited for our panel discussion today. We have a diverse representation of different social media platforms. And today what we're going to be talking about is permission to do you in your social media channel of choice. So to give a little bit of framing of what we're talking about today, quite often there's conversations that come up in business that like, where are my clients? Like, are they on Pinterest? Are they on Instagram? Where are they? And where can I find them? And I'm a big believer that you can find great clients on any platform. But if you're pretending to be something you're not, the likelihood of you being able to find great clients for you is very low. So what we're going to focus our conversation around today is what it looks like on any given platform. So today we're representing LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest. And you guys will find out who's who when we do some introductions. We're just going to talk about permission to do you on those platforms and what that can look and feel like. So you guys, if you are on the Zoom and you're watching live, please feel free to chat any comments that you have or questions, and our panelists will answer those as well. And otherwise, we're going to have a lovely conversation about social media. And I specifically know that Paul has many things to say about social media. So let's start with Paul. Paul, can you tell us a little bit about you and what it means to you to do you?
I love your wording, to do me. So brief LinkedIn story. I've been doing business in South Africa for about 20 years, and 4 or 5 years back, I moved to Australia. And one of the things I left behind, I didn't realize that I would, was my network that I'd built up over those 20 years. And so I started to use LinkedIn to rebuild my network here in Australia. And what I found was I now have a network of about 28,000 people, most of whom I don't know. And so I kind of hit with this realization that I'm wasting my time and theirs. And part of what I've been grappling with over the last couple of years is how do you resist that urge that you get encouraged to on social media, which is to connect with all these strangers and tell them that you know them when you don't, and it's inauthentic. So that's one of the ways that I show up from a LinkedIn perspective. I'm anti-social and pro-people.
I love that about Paul's tagline. I was hoping that would come out. And it's not that you necessarily have to be anti-social media, but there's people behind social media, right? There's people behind social media accounts, and I know that Suzanne's going to have something to say on this topic as well. But this is what it's about, right? It's you are a real human. The person you're talking to is a real human. Social media is a platform for which you are talking through. And so you can still be a human. It's loud.
So I'm antisocial as in ANTE, which means before. And what that means for me is make sure you're on LinkedIn or whatever social media platform you're on purpose, on your purpose, not on LinkedIn or whatever the other platform is. So before you go on, work out why you're there, what your game is, what the platform's game is, and how you can get what you want out of it.
I think that's great. I knew that would come out too. Let's go to Sue next. So Sue is representing Pinterest, and Pinterest has a little bit of a different way that we're connecting with people. So Sue, tell us a little bit about yourself, what it means to do you, specifically Sue, and then give us a little bit of framing on what's a little bit different about Pinterest.
Thanks for having me, Tracy. Good to see you guys. I am Sue Kreitz. I'm a Pinterest ads manager and strategist. And so I am the introverts platform. Pinterest is actually a visual search engine. And so you can hide behind your content and still get traffic and still get visibility. So for me, I am not the social bug. Like showing up on social media can be excruciating. But when you find the right group, when you find the right people, and you just show up as yourself, where the conversation just comes naturally, it's not such a chore. Like I'm a dog lover. So, you know, if I connect with someone, they're like, show a picture of your dog. I just have a friend. You know, it just made that common connection that then it's not as much of a challenge. You enjoy it. You look forward to going back because you're actually, like Paul said, you're making a connection versus having this crowd of people that you're connected with, but you have no connection with, if that makes sense at all. So for Pinterest, the way you connect is, well, with Pinterest, with social media, you have an option to engage, right? You have a post, someone can make a comment, you can encourage a comment or reply back to that person. You know, someone makes it, oh, nice post. Okay, well, then you can draw a little more conversation out of them. But on Pinterest, you're sending a cold audience, which means people you've never engaged with, potentially. You can have your audience that you connect with on Pinterest, but you can also, because it's a visual search engine, reach a completely new audience. They know nothing about you. And so when they land on your page, whatever page you're sending them to, the URL, that has to do the talking. So you have to come through in your copy, in your images, everything that you do, the process, the experience, that's how you show up with Pinterest, is that you show up with great content, and then you have to let your copy convert for you, because you're not there's no one there. Like when you go into a store, hi, welcome, you know, same with social media, hi, welcome. Pinterest, that's it. Your website has to do the talking for you. So that's how you have to show up, not actually on the platform per se. You, meaning your personality, has to show up wherever you're sending them. So that's kind of the difference for me. But introverts dream but you have to produce content or do ads. Those are your two options for Pinterest. But yeah, great way to build your email list, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I think that that's great because I talk to a lot of people who consider themselves introverts, and it can feel hard. Jenna's saying me. It can feel hard to get out in front of people, right? And there's so many people who are like, do video, do live, do this, and this is exactly the focus of this conversation today and for this entire web series. Actually, is that if you're showing up in a way that's inauthentic to you, then it just is going to feel hard, right? No matter how much logic you think is behind it, right? It's actually funny because I have the same problem with email funnel. I've tried multiple times to have an email funnel, and I just don't like it. It doesn't feel like Tracy. And so I don't have one. And I do other things instead. I like to do live video because it's the thing that I like. I like thinking on my feet. I like looking human and screwing up. And those are the part of me. And those are the things I love about me. And there's so many people that are just like, I can't, like, I would love to, but even if I would love to, theoretically, it wouldn't feel like me. And that's not the point, right? Like the amount of time entrepreneurs try to do things that are not in alignment with who they are, it's just a waste of energy, a waste of mental calories. And so I am really glad to have Sue here today to bring kind of that a little bit behind the scenes introvert dream perspective, because this is exactly the point, right? There are places for everybody. And knowing, and throwing it back to Paul now on the anti-social, knowing what you want to do with that. I was going to make a joke about him saying anti because he's old, but he's before everybody else, before social media was invented. Although I also like to say I'm older than Google, and at some point my son's not going to believe me, and I'm going to be like, it's true. But that's the point, like having that plan, knowing what is a good representation of you, and knowing that you should choose a thing that's a good representation of you. All right, let's throw it over to Bree. Bree, tell us a little bit about yourself and your passions and what it looks like to do Bree.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, I love this conversation already, and I connected with Tracy a little while ago, and I was really drawn to her, like, because we have very similar views on doing unique things, like doing things your way. And not doing something just because some business coach some long way told you that like XYZ would take you to 6 figures or whatever. I think that connection and authenticity are more important. I really believe strongly in like seeing, because I do a lot of Instagram engagement, and I just really believe strongly in recognizing that there's a human on the other end of that screen. You're not just speaking to a computer. And so I've actually been like an Instagram expert, engagement expert for quite some time. And now I'm shifting more into the coaching side of my business, which is really exciting because that's actually what's putting me into alignment with myself and helping me show up authentically. But it's really different for me because I'm used to like being very like, you know, strategy based around Instagram. But of course, Instagram is still the platform that I choose to show up on because I just love it. And Instagram's a very visual platform, which is similar to Pinterest that way. But it has a lot of differences. Like I know Pinterest is more of a search engine, and Instagram is definitely a social media platform. And so there are different reasons to use both of them. Instagram really relies heavily on video. If you look at Instagram, you'll see that there's like multiple different ways to utilize video. It's not just like one thing. You can do live videos, and you can do IGTVs, and you can do reels, and stories are very video and image based. And so Instagram really, in my mind, Instagram really encourages you to show your face and speak to your audience. Of course, there's still the feed, and you should definitely still use the feed because you can, you know, put stuff in your feed and then repurpose it into video on your stories or in a live video or whatever, in an email, however you're utilizing your business. But kind of like I guess like the cornerstone of, especially this year for my business, has been the word connection. And so whenever I'm showing up on Instagram, I'm always looking at it as a way for me to connect with other people, my ideal clients, but not even just my ideal clients. Like I connected with Tracy on social media. And so for me, connection has just been a really big piece of everything I've done. Even when I look back at other years, that's been a big reason that I brought clients in, that I've, you know, sold out my services different times, is because of connection. And now I have a framework that starts with connection. So, because as I reflected this year, I really didn't have a framework before this year. I kind of just did things. And this year, I kind of started reflecting on how I did things and looking at why things worked, how I did it. And my framework, what I love about my framework is that it's unique. So it doesn't just stick you to like a specific step-by-step strategy. The words in the framework, you get to decide what those mean to you and how you're going to utilize them in your business. And so, yeah, so I think that's pretty much me. Yeah, I'm also in Canada, like Tracy, but I'm in Ontario, hopefully soon moving to Nova Scotia. So, yeah.
And if you guys didn't pick it up from the accent, Paul is in Australia, or he told you in his story, but he's from South Africa. Thank you, Bree, there are so many great things that you said in there. I want to point out one thing in particular about the connection, right? Every single person has a different way they connect as well. And it's actually funny because when I met Paul, Paul gave me some tips on how I could connect with people on LinkedIn. And I was like, meh. So the way I met Bree, just fun fact for everybody, I was looking for an Instagram, somebody who had experience in Instagram to speak on this panel. And so I went on LinkedIn and I looked up Instagram coach and Bree came up. And so I reached out to her and I was like, hey, I have this series that I run. If you're interested in chatting about it, let me know. I would love to chat. And Bree was like, yeah, sure. And then we had a conversation and we like, and that's where we got aligned and like, we really believe in a lot of the same things.
What's so funny about that is like, I really don't use LinkedIn. Like every once in a while, I'll come across something. I'm like, oh, I should really get my LinkedIn thing going again. And I'll like re-update it and kind of like bring it back up to speed. And so I like will go months without checking my messages. So I somehow managed to get that message in a timely fashion and respond to you. And I actually forgot that we even met on LinkedIn, by the way, because I never use it. So that's actually hilarious.
And it's just is so funny because I know that about you and that you never really show up there. And specifically, like, if I told Paul once, I'm like, this is what I do. I just like look at people's profile and I think I would like them. I just like send them a connection request. And Paul's like, no, you can't do that. And I'm like, I do it. So something you guys are going to learn about me before the end of this session is I am not a fan of rules. I don't believe in hard and fast rules for anything. Paul's like, yeah, that's true. I don't. I'm like the Pirates of the Caribbean, where like the code is more like guidelines. Right? I believe in guidelines. Paul has something to say.
Yeah, I suppose the interesting twist on that, Tracy, if you look at it, so how many connection messages do you send out like that in a day or a week or a month?
I don't know, like 5 in a month.
Yeah, good, okay. And so I suppose put the rule in that context. You have people who are going out there and saying, look, I'll help you with your business and I'll make LinkedIn work for you. And our statistic is we'll deliver 100 connection messages for you every day. That's very different from the experience you're describing there. That's 100 strangers that you don't know that you're going to send a message to say, oh, I do know you, please connect. And you're going to pay for it as you spam everyone.
This is true. I was totally like, I don't know you, but this is what I'm doing. So you know something about Instagram to come and participate. But here's the other thing too, right? So like, yes, I reached out originally because in Bree's title, it said Instagram coach. But the reason why she's on this panel is because she believes in connection and she happens to know a whole bunch about Instagram that I don't know, which is also helpful in case anybody asks questions about Instagram. And I have something that we can go to. I'm just going to read some of these. No, I'm going to not read the comments yet. I'm going to go to Suzanne because Suzanne is going to do her intro and tell us a little bit more about Suzanne and what you feel about the permission to use specifically on Facebook.
Hi, thank you so much for letting me be here, Tracy. So I started my business on Facebook 7 years ago in a farm-to-table produce delivery service. And I didn't know you could be anything but you on Facebook. And that sounds really silly, but I was just me for a really long time until I started talking to coaches. And all of a sudden, I stopped being me. And that is just the honest truth. And so I stopped being me and listened to the rules and listened to this. And I unlearned the things that were good for me. But in the process of all of that, I learned so much about Facebook, and I'm a giant nerd. So I learned out algorithms and I learned about how to make the connections and how Facebook's mission statement, if you actually work with Facebook's mission statement, it actually works with you because the mission statement is to actually connect people. So realizing who I am and what the platform is, I learned a whole lot about how to actually make those connections work, and then engagement, double visualize, exponentially grow your visibility and your reach, and all these sorts of things that I just kind of ended up doing. And then I also realized with my own, I have some neurodiversity. So in my thinking processing skills, I'm not a neurotypical person, which basically means I think differently than some other people. So I'm very creative in how I problem solve. So I learned a variety of things. There's two types of communication on Facebook. There's one-sided communication and there's dual-sided communication. We currently are having a dual-sided conversation. You ask a question, I answer, we go back and forth. But there are many times that you can have single-sided communication where you just talk from your platform and let people respond to you. And then we come back to what's going on our own platform. If you go to my platform currently, I am on a single-sided conversation and I'm aware of that. But I do that because currently I'm in transition. I've been in transition for a few years, which sounds really crazy, but I took care of my mom who had breast cancer for a year. My daughter who's autistic just moved back in. So I'm being as me as I can be on social media and teaching people about Facebook as I go along. So I believe that you can hack the algorithm, but you cannot hack the human connection. And everybody so far has said the same thing. There is a human behind the picture. And so you can't hack that human. You can try all you want, but it's just not going to work. And so that's where I so focus on that sort of thing, and then how to communicate authentically, and how to communicate in groups so that people actually come visit you on your profile, how to communicate on your own profile, how to communicate on your business page, how to then get all those things to intermingle and work together and grow your connections and grow your communications. And that's what I do. So I love coaches, and I don't like coaches. And I will quickly tell you, I don't like the term coach. So when somebody goes, "Oh, Suzanne, will you coach me?" I'm like, nope, I'm not a coach. I'm an implementationist. I will help you implement the things in your life that you need to accomplish, but I will not coach you. So, because I unlearned me from them. So that's who it is.
Oh, well, so many good things in there too that, yeah, can't hack the human connection. That is going to be a hashtag for sure coming out of this. I think, yeah, to agree, a lot of people using the title coach don't really understand what coaching is. This is totally true. We've said not the most beautiful things so far in the comments about coaching. We're also not here to just bash coaches, right? This is just a theme that's happening specifically in the coaching industry around, I did a thing, I'll teach you how to do this thing, and that will make you successful. And that is exactly the mindset that doesn't work, because I'm not you. So it's like, I always see this all the time. I have a background in copywriting, so I write my own copy. But I still get all the emails like, all you need is this $27 email funnel, and it'll be the magic email funnel that gets you all the sales, right? You don't even know me. It's not even like you were a coach and you talked to me for a really long time and you're like, I've custom tailored this funnel for you. No, you're just selling the same thing to all the people. And then there's so many people who try to use it. They fail to use it because they can't make it authentic. Jenna, I know that this just happened to Jenna, unfortunately. And this is the thing, and I don't know. I choose to believe, because I believe in the best of people, that they are trying to help, right? Like, they've seen this work, they want to try and help you. The thing is that I'm a very big believer in that generic should be free. So if you're going to give somebody generic advice, it should be free. I should not have to pay for that. If you're going to give me custom advice, I will pay for that. Heck, I give a lot of people custom advice for free because I think they should just have the advice, right? Like, that's just the way it should be. Yes, thank you, Sam. Generic advice should be free. So anyway, we've said so many things. I want to give our guests an opportunity as well. So if you guys have questions, right? Again, the topic of the day is permission to do you in your social media channel of choice. So maybe you haven't chosen what platform that's going to be. Maybe you're on a platform and it's not feeling authentic. If there's anything in that arena that you would like to ask our lovely panelists tonight, please feel free to pop it in the chat. Otherwise, our panelists are all over the chat, so you can just read their comments as well. But before we do that, Paul was mentioning here, one of the traps of social media creates the space for virtual experts versus real experts. Just start by adding expert to your title and page. Voila, you're an expert. And so let's talk about that for a little bit, because I think that is another struggle for entrepreneurs in the online space, is that it can be hard to distinguish a real expert from a self-titled expert. And my background is marketing, and so I have seen this a lot in marketing service providers too. People who just show up and will be like, I'm a copywriter, or I'm a social media manager. Just because you know how to post on social media does not mean you're qualified to manage someone else. And I speak a lot about still that branding piece, right? If you're going to be the voice of somebody else, you've got to know how to do that, right? I'm really sad right now because I have a good friend and she has a Facebook group. she's outsourced it to a community manager who is now doing all the posting in the Facebook group, and it has lost all of the personality. Like, it now is just another generic, actually Suzanne, I should do an intro because like it's become generic, right? So now I'm talking about two things. Paul has something to say.
How do people fall for that? That's a bit like me going to you, Tracy, and say, you know, one of the challenges you have in your life that you've talked about is your husband. It's okay, I can take care of him. I'll do all your messaging for you and send all the relevant, you know, birthday greetings and check with him in the shopping list in the morning. And I'll do that all for you as part of my package of services.
This is just mostly funny because I'm watching Tara laugh at it because she knows how much Paul knows about my husband. And it's not enough to do that. Like, it's not.
No, but I'm an expert. We've got the right templates for you, and you fill out a content calendar, and you can tell me what messages to send, which day of the week. It'll be perfect.
Yeah. Actually, Bree,
makes you an expert because you're a male. That's just, isn't that it right there? Like, you're a male, you're now an expert.
I thought that was obvious, but yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Bree, I would actually love to get your opinion on this because I think, especially on Instagram, there's still a lot of focus on like a perfectly curated feed. And even at the beginning, you were talking more about the video content, which isn't even the stuff that shows up in your feed. So let's talk a little bit about the idea of like perfection on social media.
Stop doing it. Seriously, things are really shifting on Instagram that way, and there's a lot less emphasis on a perfect feed and more emphasis on people actually connecting with your content. They just want you to show up as yourself and feel connected to you. And like, so Sue talked about connecting with someone because they have a dog. So I talk about this all the time because I used to do Instagram engagement for people. So it's interesting that Paul was just saying that about like sending messages, because I used to do that. But there are many people who, like the clients that I had, that they loved what I did because it was so different from what they'd experienced with other people who said that they were experts at that, and like would send put these generic comments on the posts, and they would like just do the reactions and stories instead of being like authentic like the person would be. And I never took the engagement, like I never said I'm 100%, you don't have to do any engagement anymore with your people, because you do. You still need to talk to your people, and I'm not going to make the sales for you. Like I'm creating people coming over here, and I'm bringing people to you, and I'm starting conversations, but they were still very involved in the engagement. The difference was I got a very comprehensive overview at the beginning of my client's personality. I also knew all of them for quite some time before I took them on as engagement clients. So I was very aware of the way they spoke, how many kids they have, what pets they had, where they live, if they drink coffee or tea, even like down to the minutest detail. I knew a lot of stuff about them. And so when I was engaging for them, most of the time people did not know that there was an engagement expert doing some of their engagement for them. I actually don't think I ever heard that from anyone that they got asked that. So there is a way to do that kind of thing, but like Paul and you were saying, like you have to have a very good understanding of the person that you are doing that for. And I didn't take very many people on at once. So I was like very, I guess, intimate with what was going on in their business and in their life. But back to the Instagram thing. I just had to say that. Yeah. So with the feed, there's definitely way more of an emphasis on just being authentic versus being perfect. And so I've been shifting away from that for some time now, and just like, I just don't care what my feed looks like anymore. Like if I feel like my face needs to be posted today and like they need to connect with me as a person, or if I feel like there's a specific quote that's really been speaking to me and I feel like I need to share that with my audience, and that's what I'll share. Or maybe I'm feeling like bringing some fun and play and doing a reel, then I'll do that. And you can put reels, IGTV, and feed posts all can show up on your feed. And then stories is just another, like has its own place, right? That doesn't show up in your feed. So did that answer?
Oh yeah. Well, that's what I was trying. I hear so many people still, and there are a lot of people who are still selling the templates, right? Like, this is how you make your Instagram feed look beautiful.
I've seen so many of them lately, and I'm like, that's bullshit.
Well, and I feel like this is interesting. And the reason why we have you guys on the panel today, too, is because I've spoken to you. I believe in your expertise in the arena, right? And I got to say, I think something that has seemed pretty common to me is that the people who have a different idea generally seem to know more or have experienced it more and have gone deeper, right? They can find, they've picked out the things in that arena that drive them nuts. And they're like, this is dumb. And everybody should know that this is dumb. And then they're talking about the things that people shouldn't do instead of the things that they should do. So I'd like to, I'm sure Suzanne and Paul both have something to say on that, but I would love to get Sue's opinion, again, from the Pinterest perspective, right? Because again, it's a little more removed, not quite so in your face, right? So in turn, if that is a strategy that somebody who would consider themselves an introvert is going to be looking at, and they're talking about the conversation of showing up as an expert, what are some of the things that you've seen work in the Pinterest arena?
You kind of verifying that whoever is doing the talking is the expert. Is that kind of the proof is in the pudding? You know, where you send them, you can, you know, there's some who can fake it till they make it and show that they kind of talk a good talk, but when you dive deeper, you figure it out. And so, you know, you'll have people who talk a great talk on their pin or in the description, and it makes you want to, you know, oh, I have to click now. And then you get through and you're like, wow, that was just such a disappointment. You know, it's like finding that there's no more fries in the bottom of your bag, you know, like, what was that? You know, so, you know, you have to give them, if you're telling them you have something free, it's got to be of value. You know, I don't give up my email address for anybody. So provide a great opt-in. To me, again, your copy has to be do the talking for you. So if your opt-in provides so much value, then that person, if you provide that value for free, then what do your services look like? What do your packages look like? So it's not being afraid to share your expertise. I think, you know, not being afraid to lay it all out up front. Not that you're giving away the farm, but there's a certain skill that they can't do. When they come to me for Pinterest ads, there's a reason they come to me, because it's a skill, there's experience, and you can't, kind of lost my train of thought, but that with you just have to provide the value for people, and then they really see when you dig deeper, just at the get-go, then you still have, I guess I'm trying to get to my point of that if you provide that much value for free, you have to know more to be able to charge more, right? So I'm giving you all of this value for free. So in order to charge you, I have to know beyond that, I guess is what I'm trying to get around. Does that make sense at all? That, you know, if I can give you this much value for free, then what do I give you if I pay you, right? You have to really know your stuff. If you know beyond this, then I want to work with you. Did I give any sort of clarification on that question? Sorry, I kind of get sidetracked. I lose my train of thought. I am the whole squirrel thing, you know.
Yeah. Go ahead, Paul.
Short-term memory.
I love that point. For me, it talks to what Susanna was talking about earlier, is that I'm an implementer. I'll get the thing done for you. Because I think for most of us, if you get any good with your content and how you think in your model, and you do it for long enough, most of your magic's published somewhere.
Yeah.
So it's all there. You can get it for free anyway. The magic that we add is I'll help you use it. That's worth money.
100%. If you go into my content specifically and you watch my videos, you can do absolutely everything I will talk about. But I know enough about human behavior to know you're not going to do it. And you're not going to do it for multiple reasons. One, it's not sexy. It just isn't going to be fun to go do some of the things I teach you to do. But when you do the things that I've taught you to do, your communication, your visibility, your expansion, all of those things are going to grow exponentially. And so, but the setup part of it is a pain in the butt. I mean, who really goes and likes to wash the windows every year? It just doesn't happen. It's just not the sexy part of life. And that's not the sexy part of Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, none of that stuff. I do graphic design as well, but I could never, and I will say this 100%, go do a Pinterest graphic, because it would fail, because I don't know the things that Sue knows. And I could tell you all day long I'm a graphic designer, but I know my stuff would fail. The stuff I do is primarily for Facebook and for Instagram, but there is no way I would even remotely try to do a Pinterest ad unless I sat down with Sue and she clearly explained that to me. So 100% on what you were saying, Sue, if you know this much value for free and you can get it, Jiminy Crickets, what are you going to get when you sit with somebody and spend time with them and like start digging into the little recesses of the brain? That's where all of our expert value actually lies.
Oh, thank you guys. That was so good. And I want to just talk a little bit more about the digging deeper, because I think it's a thing that we've stopped doing in the online space. That we've said like, oh, there's this person, they've got all these ads, right? Like they've clearly got some money and they're doing all this stuff. But I mean, personally, for myself, I would look at the investments that I made that I thought were a bad investment at the end of the day. And I did not dig deeper. I took them at face value. And I think, and this is the thing about the online space, and it's always been the thing about the online space, right? It's, as soon as there was online dating sites, there was fake profiles that people had with fake images, right? Like people have always used it to create a mask. And there are still a lot of people doing that. And these people are now some of the big coaches that we've talked about that have the money, have the clout, but they're still wearing a mask. And it was really interesting for me because I had an experience with a coach like that who actually told me, so this is a person I was paying to be my coach, who told me that they needed to change their brand because they had a new offer. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? Like your brand, your offer is just an offer. I was so confused. And so like a lot of these people who are doing these things and making all the money still have this problem. And so it is a really great takeaway. It might seem simple, but digging deeper and saying like, man, if you're going to invest your money into a thing, someone should encourage you to dig deeper, right? I remember I had this one client and she was like emailing me question after question after question after question. And she's like, oh, I'm sorry to send you all these questions. I'm like, this is my job to answer your questions. I'm trying to make sure you get the right solution to your problem, asking them as long as you have them, right? Because that's what we should do. I have a feeling that I am frozen. Am I back?
Hey, you're all good. I was frozen for a second.
No, I think I was frozen. My internet connection is unstable.
I actually had one of the things about the expert, I think sometimes you can see through, it depends on what, if you're trying to get to someone through a mass communication, or if you're talking one-on-one, like you want to use someone's services, when they're not afraid to turn you away because you're not the right fit, probably a good sign. You know, like I had someone who's, oh, let me do Pinterest ads. And I'm like, whoa, simmer down there. Do you have this, this, and this, and this in line? Nope. You're wasting your time and mine. I'm not gonna say, you know, like I'm happy to take a paycheck, but you know, like that's not how you do business. So for me, she's not going to succeed because she doesn't have what's in place. So being willing and asking the questions, like if they're, like you said, you're asking questions for people, there's a reason, because I need to know, are you a good fit? Do you have what it takes to succeed? Because I'm not going to set myself or them up for failure. My goal is to help them grow their business. So if I can't do that for them if they don't have those things in place. And so it is that, I get time and time again where someone go, wow, I didn't know that. Right. And so it's just someone's willingness to be upfront and say, this isn't a good fit for you. Then that's someone that you want to go, okay, well, when I'm ready, that's who I want to go to. That's kind of a good judge for me. I found that just, dig deeper.
Yeah. And I wanted to like piggyback off your comment, Tracy, about like bad investments. Because I believe that we learn something from all our investments, whatever way they go. One thing I noticed, there's two things. The first thing is most of the people that I hired who were coaches, after I learned more, I understood that they were consultants and strategists and not coaches. And so if I had educated myself more at the time that I hired them or joined their program or whatever, I would have understood that what they were selling wasn't coaching, and I wouldn't have been disappointed. Like I wouldn't have felt let down by the coaching because I would have understood what it was. The second thing is that all of those people were basically, if I had understood that what I was paying for was not, it wasn't like looking at it, it's not the end result. Like, okay, she's making 6 figures, I want to make 6 figures. But what I wasn't looking at was how she was doing it and what she was packaging it up as. So if I had been able to understand that she wasn't a coach and she was a consultant, and what she was selling was to make 6 figures exactly the way she had made 6 figures, and that's how I wanted to do it, then that would have been a good choice for me. If, however, I was a completely different person, because I am a completely different person from her, and I understood that how I get to 6 figures might look very different than her, and I still invested because I wanted some of the knowledge. I wanted to know some of the strategy. Maybe I'm totally new to business and I don't know anything about strategy, and I want to learn some strategies to see if they're something I'm going to utilize, then that's also a valid choice. But if I come at it and I'm like, yeah, that's totally not me, I definitely want what she has, but I don't see myself being who she is, then I would be able to walk away with that educated, like, no, this isn't a good investment. And like Sue said, like there's both sides are like interviewing each other. Really, that's what's happening. You're interviewing the coach, and the coach should be interviewing you. You should both be making sure that this person is a good fit for, like, on the coach's side or the consultant's side or whatever. Does this person already have what they need in place? Like, even for a coaching program, a business coaching program, if they're teaching you how to do like business foundations, but you already have like funnels in place and systems and tools, you don't need to join that program, even though it looks shiny and cool and all exciting, and we get caught up in the hype a lot, especially in the online space. There's so much going on. There's so much hype and so much like shininess. And I think that's why it's so important to dig deeper, because there's so many people you could invest in, so many programs you could buy, so many like ads, people you can pay for ads. There's lots of them everywhere, but there's a lot of things that you need to know, and there's a lot of things that they need to know about you, so that you can both come to that mutual agreement that this is a perfect fit for you.
You have something to add, Paul?
Just getting the wording right, because I was thinking a lot of it, to my mind, has to do with the pricing. And fundamentally, when you're working with someone, do you feel you're getting good value for money? And the way you violate that is you pay for most of it up front, in which case you've given them a pile of money and they've given you very little. And now you're stuck. You have to kind of work all the way through it to see the hope that you might get something out that's good out of the other end. And the other part of it is, can you exit? Because if you can't exit, that's a danger sign.
And I think we could talk about that. That could be at a completely different episode, probably, because this is the thing, right? I am a big believer for like real experts. There's no reason to trap you into a contract, right? Like, I'm here to do a thing, help you do a thing. And it's actually funny because my sister and her husband are both lawyers, and they're all about like the contracts and keep yourself safe. And I get that, right? I do get like you want to protect yourself. And even if I had a contract, it's actually funny. Tara and I talk about this a lot, but you have the decision. You get to make the decision whether or not you honor any contract, right? So like, yes, if you want to say like, okay, this person is going to contract for a year and they're going to pay me this amount a month, blah, blah, blah. And then they're like, hey, I'm not getting any value out of this. I would like to not pay you for the services you have not rendered me.
I mean, a contract needs to be fair and equitable.
Yeah.
You think about it when you pay for a meal. If you arrive at a restaurant, they say, look, this is going to be the best meal you've had all year. Okay, good, I'm looking forward to it. It's $250 up front. You think, that's a bit odd. Normally meals like you pay for them at the end. There's a twist here somewhere. Are you so concerned that I'm going to leave midway through the meal that you want my money up front? What's wrong with the food you serve around here?
It's true. And like, it's an interesting conversation adding on to the like generic things should be free, right? Because if you went to that restaurant and you got a whole bunch of delicious appetizers for free because everybody gets the same appetizer, right? You're like, oh, this is the most delicious appetizers. Now I can have a whole other 4 courses of my meal. And they're like, okay, great. But it's $250 up front for the rest of the 4 courses. Then at least you have something to base that decision on. Now you're like, okay, I know this is the type of quality that I get. And could they dupe me and give me a whole bunch of crap? They could. Yes, they could. But you get to tell. That's the dig deeper part, right? Like, so let's ask good questions. And one thing I want to add there, and then if you guys have additional comments on this, and I do want to remind that our guests as well, if you have questions, please pop them in the comments and we can answer some more questions as well. Is the caringness. So I feel like, and this is something that I do in a one-on-one interaction, whether that's Zoom, I don't get to do that in person right now, right? But I feel like there's that connection, right? Like everybody said it at different parts of the conversation today, that connection that you get with a person, right? There's a feeling, and I feel like that feeling, the caring, is much harder to fake than like our online facade. Does anybody want to chat about that?
I do.
Yeah.
I do, because it kind of goes along with the tip about Facebook. But so we were talking a little bit about the engagement experts, and there's a couple of things I want to talk about. So wait, I lost, hold on. I was back on what y'all were talking about, the food, and I didn't want to forget about it because it was kind of, sorry, real quick on that, and then I'll go to what we're trying to say. But what I was going to say with that is knowing when you're talking about what you're going to get, knowing what the program entails. So like for my stuff, I do things in intensives. So you get a 4-hour intensive with me. I am not the person that is going to one-on-one coach you for an extended period of time. We're going to attack one thing, we're going to do one thing, and we're going to be done. And then if you need something else, we can talk again, and we'll set up another time and we'll do something else. I also body double for those with ADHD, because I'm the kind of person who sits there and it's like, we're going to do this and we're going to be done. We're going to do this and we're going to be done. And it works very, very well. But there are other coaches who they do amazing for extended periods of time. So what Tara was saying about a program dropping off at 3/4, I am that person. I cannot continue a long-term program. So I stick with 4-hour increments and intensives, and boom, we're done. And because of that, my customer service, my brand, my quality stays at a high level, because I'm authentically me in producing and giving the type of service I can give, not what others expect. So there was that. The second part about that whole connection part, about being authentic in how we're talking, I give a statement called the 2-sentence rule. So the algorithm actually counts how many characters you type in to see if you're actually making a thoughtful connection between two people. There is a magic number. It is 100 characters. There is a time that goes with that too. So kind of a small hack, if you really can't think out 100 characters, if you spend some time getting a GIF and captioning it, making sure it's appropriate, it'll equate. But that 100 characters is about 2 sentences. You cannot be fake in 2 sentences. I mean, I guess you really can, but you can be fake with "that's cute," "oh, adorable," "oh, fun," "you look beautiful," "oh, how nice." I really, you can't care in that. You can pretend to care, but that doesn't actually show care. If you put in the 27 seconds it takes you to write out 100 characters, you have to think through something that is genuine or authentic. Eventually you get to a point where you may be able to fake it, but there are programs out there that you can buy that hack the algorithm, that you type in 3, 8 words, and Bree's nodding her head because she knows exactly what I'm talking about. You can type in these little things and it'll copy and paste it on everything in your feed. And people are selling this as an affiliate program, and it breaks my heart because it kills your business for that exact reason. You lose the care, you lose the compassion, you lose the authenticity, and it just that's where my heart lies, and I can just keep going with that for a really long time.
Oh no, and now Bree is saying she had a coach that advised her to buy followers.
Yeah, so it's even worse than that. She actually advised me to have a second account. That this is back when I was like wanting to set up my like expertise as an Instagram expert or whatever. She wanted me to have a separate account that I just did like quotes on and buy all the followers on there and say that I grew that account organically. Like so inauthentic on so many levels. It was horrible. Obviously I never did that. Cause even baby Bree was like, no, that feels very wrong. So yeah, there's like, I was in a coaching program fall of 2019 where the coach was telling people to like do the bot thing, and some of them did it. And I was just like, oh my God, why? So, and I've seen things go so wrong with them too. Like people have totally ruined their accounts with these things. And I struggle to understand exactly what this does for you. Like, so you have a bunch of fake people following you. Like what exact, like you have the swipe up feature. Ooh, that's definitely worth a whole bunch of fakeness. Like I don't care about the swipe up feature. I'm like one of the few people that really does not care about it. I would much rather be having conversations. I'm an Enneagram 4, if anybody knows Enneagram. So deep connections are really important to me. And so I would rather be having 5 to 10 conversations with people that I've been getting to know than have 5,000 people added to my follower count so I can like link something that people can swipe up. I just don't see the point.
Quality.
Well, and I think it just loses the whole point. We're talking about care and compassion and authentic relationships, right? And those people are not. So that's the difference, right? That is what makes them different. But I have an experience too where I was a sales coach for a little while, and I had a sales rep who would make like 125 calls a week and get maybe 1 meeting. Maybe. That's a terrible ratio, you guys. That's terrible. And so I asked him about it, and I was like, hey, can we talk about this? Because this is not gonna be a thing that continues to happen. And he's like, I can't make 125 calls a week and make them mean something to people. And I was like, that sounds fair to me. So next week, you do you for a week. You tell them, because I don't know, right? Like, and we'll have to tweak it probably, but like how much time, how much research, whatever, does it have to go into getting a good call to get a meeting? And he's okay. So I reported the KPIs the next week. He did 8 calls That's kind of low, but more so the drastically different. 3 meetings on 8 calls instead of maybe one on 125 calls. And I was like, okay, there's something here. And my boss was like, no, they have to do 125 calls a week. And I was like, even if there's a big problem in sales here, because people will be like, just reach out to this many people, right? Like, what does it matter if I'm reaching out to 100 people if one, not connecting with them, 2, I don't have a consistent message, so I don't even know what I want to say to them, but I'm reaching out to them, so hey, now they're my Facebook friends. Like, this goes back to Paul's point about the antisocial. Right? What is your plan for what you're going to do before you show up? And it's relevant too, even when you look at Pinterest, right? Because we need to know, what is that conversation? There is still a human that is experiencing this flow. There's a human that is experiencing their ad. That person is going to go to your website. If you go from that ad to that website, what does that experience feel like? Does it feel like you? Is it an easy experience? Are people going to be like super confused when they hit your landing page and be like, this isn't what I thought it was. This is not the way to speed up a sales process, right? Like, let's be honest, even if we're talking about it from the perspective of, at the end of the day, we're all trying to get clients, right? We're trying to get clients, but there's so many different ways to do that. And the best way to do that is for people to believe you're a good human. And I will tell you what, if people don't believe you're a good human, you are definitely not getting repeat clients or referral clients. So all of the work you put into those first clients is just a big waste. Marketing secret is it costs 7 times more money to get a new person than to get a repeat client. So why would you choose to do that over and over when it's actually building that relationship can be based on you? And I want to, like Suzanne mentioned it too, right? In terms of, she does her 4 hours intensive because that's what works for her. Her ideal clients consume her information that way. There are other people who can't consume information that way. They get coached by other people. But you're not here to be other people. You are here to be you and serve your people. Your people want, that is their preferred way of being served as well. And they might not even know it, right? There was a lady I was talking to along way back, and she is a OBM, online business manager. And she had a passion for customer experience, which is my background too. And I was like, oh, like, it'd be so cool. You could do this and this and this. And she's like, oh no, I couldn't do that. And I'm like, why not? And she's like, the industry doesn't buy things that way. Well, no one sells things that way right now. So you couldn't even possibly know. Nobody wouldn't buy it because no one else is selling it that way. And I think this is an interesting conversation too. I personally always run across, because I'm about people doing it their own way and owning their space. And sometimes that means there is no proven track, right? Like we are making a path as we go. And sometimes we're going to run into a tree, and then we're going to have to back up and be like, well, that didn't work for me. And you have to change your trajectory and move on, right? But this is what it looks like to forge a path, right? Like every single person in history who forged a path didn't just like follow the one that was already there. That's someone else's path. And I want to do one more like round of comments from everybody, but I just have to share this with you guys because I think you'll be like, ugh. There's somebody that I'm connected to on LinkedIn who I agree with like 90% of his posts. And he did a post the other day about how it's better to be a copy and get paid than to be unique and be broke. And I was like, well, if you narrow it down to it's better to get paid than to be broke, like, yeah, I'm not going to tell anybody to like lose your house by being unique, but there's an equally high chance that you are going to be broke and be a copy. Right? Like we have to talk about that, because being a copy isn't what makes it work for you, right? The likelihood of you being successful when you have the focus on being unique, you still got to do things, right? Like you can't just sit there and be like, I'm going to be unique and then do nothing, right? Like that's not going to accomplish it for you. But it's just the concept of, I had to beat that. I was like, ooh, I have so many things to say. That was another example too. So Suzanne was like, can you at least 100 characters? I was like, ooh, I had like 2 paragraphs on that one, on comments, right? And this is the point too, right? Like comment on things where you have something to say, right? Like where you can be authentic and compassionate and connect with people. Like, I don't know, that guy probably, actually, it's funny because normally he thanks me for my opinion, but he didn't done that. But you were an idiot and I had to fix it. Sorry, Belle. But that's it. And we have the ability with every single post, with every single comment, with every single ad, with every single whatever interaction we create, we have the ability to show compassion to people and be a human with our response. Sound like a human. We're not chatbots. Does anybody have any like wrap up comments or tips or tricks that they would like to leave with our audience?
I actually did, and I can't listen and type in, so I'm always like, wow, I can't believe they're typing and listening at the same time. Not me. So not that I'm not, yeah, not me. I think in all of this, it just kind of comes full circle to what we were talking about, is how to do you in marketing. And when you do you in marketing, it allows you to find the right person, because when you're doing you, you're going to line up with who you want to work with. When you do you in business, like Suzanne does the 4-hour intensives, that's who she wants to be. That's the life she wants to create. You're not out there to create some other life. And like Bree was talking about, these cookie cutter, it works for that person. Well, what are the goals that that person has? What is the life that person has? You might be on opposite ends of the spectrum. Find what is you and be okay with that being you. And it might take you a little while to find it, but when you are you, whether it's in how you market, whether it's how you do business, it's building the life you want. And if marketing is not the way you can do it, then it's not the way you should be doing it. Like, it shouldn't be such a struggle. I actually had a business coach, and she's like, yes, Sue, stay away from social media. And I was like, okay, don't have to tell me that twice, you know? And she was a total thing. If that doesn't fit you, that doesn't fit you. So find your ways of doing it. So posting, took that off my plate. That's a breath of fresh air. So just find you, whether it's in whatever you're doing with your business, let it align with your life, the life you want to create, and you're capable of creating that life. It's the choices that you make. What choices do you need to make that happen? So that was it. All kind of, to me, it all kind of came full circle from what everyone was saying.
Boom. Good job, everybody. Any other wrap-up comments?
So I want to connect to what Sue just said about content and posting. That's why if you look at what I'm doing currently, my content is not 100% business-based right now, where for a while it was. But you should communicate and be you the way that you need to communicate. So back to that, using my 4-hour intensives, everybody learns differently. Everybody needs something differently. So continuing to be what you think others need is not serving the people that you need to serve, and who need you and your own individuality and your own authenticity and all the things about you that makes you you. Trying to be what you're not and not doing you is hurting you and hurting the people you're trying to help. And if we could get that through in the coaching community, if we could get that through in the social media community and get that point taught to people, we'd have such a different experience than what we ourselves have done in our learning and our growing, but our clients would have, and it would just be a whole different community in general if we could just do ourselves authentically knowing that our authentic selves are who going to help the people that we need to serve the most.
My little heart reaction.
Seriously, that was both of you. That was really, really good. Really resonated with me too. And I just wanted to add, like I've spent a lot of time doing what I thought I had to do in order to make money, based on, you know, multiple factors. Some being, you know, other people told me that this is the way I had to do things. Like, oh, you have to like do, what did they call it? Traditional launching. Here's a traditional launch strategy. Well, I'm not traditional. Like, I don't even like that word. That sounds horrible. So, and like, I don't have time to go into my story, but I grew up in a cult and I have like 8 siblings. So like, I have a whole story about why I'm different from my family and black sheep. And I am just not traditional. And so I spend a lot of time, and Suzanne mentioned at the beginning that she's like in this 3-year transition. And it took me some time to fully step into, which I really have just done. And so it was really hard for me to step away from the strategy stuff, even though I know that what I'm stepping into is actually like literally my life purpose. That's what I'm here to do. And it's really important work, but it was really scary to step away from like what I thought was the way to make money. And so I think when you're able to see like, and to add to that, I was still trying to sell this stuff because I thought, oh, this is where I'm going to make money, but I wasn't getting any clients because it's not what I was supposed to be doing. So if you're still doing something because you think you have to do that in order to make money, usually it's not going to work. So just fast forward to like doing what you're supposed to be doing. Don't make my mistake. But also like, as soon as I like fully embraced it and stepped into it, it was like a huge weight lifted off my shoulders. I was like, oh, okay. And so it can be scary to do things differently because everybody in the space is telling you that this is the way to be successful and this is how you're going to make money. And there's all this talk about, you know, 10K months and 6-figure years and blah, blah, blah. And those things are great. But like Paul talked about the intention of being on the platform, it also just applies to your business as a whole. Like, what's your intention? And like, are you showing up with intention for the people that you're supposed to show up for? Usually that's going to pay off in the long run anyways.
Yes. Intention equals direction. Good one, Suzanne. Okay, Paul, you gonna wrap this up?
Am I? Well,
I don't know. I'm sure you have something to say.
A wrap up of all those things that have been said is to make sure that when you're in any business kind of environment or on a social media platform, to make sure you're on purpose, your purpose in what you're doing in that space, not LinkedIn's or Facebook's or someone else or some business coach that's trying to replicate themselves in you.
Yeah. Be you on purpose.
Yeah.
Oh, love it. Okay, I want to thank you guys so much for joining me today. Thank you to our guests for watching. Thank you to our lovely panel. You guys were amazing. I really appreciate you guys sharing your knowledge with us today. I hope that you guys took away all the power behind being you and doing you on purpose. So no matter what social media channel you're going to show up on, even if you're not going to, pick what you're going to do on purpose, what is aligned with you, and show up and be that. That's your job, right? That's your job. Thank you guys for joining me. I know it's quite late for some of you, although quite early from some other of you. But I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day and stay tuned for a next episode coming up soon. Thanks, everyone.